about as quorumed up as possible. So I'm going to briefly call this meeting to order. It's 8:03. But I think our first order of business is going to be Rca Elections, which we delayed for multiple reasons last year, COVID-19 being one of them, and then also just making sure that we had sort of a full slate of candidates. And so the bylaws are a little bit interesting. I effectively need to renounce my presidency before this election, and we're going to appoint what we call the acting secretary. And I'm proposing that Ken Kopchik be our acting secretary because he's been around for a few elections and he's also not on the slate. So with that, I'm going to mute myself and let Ken take it over.
All right, I'm going to try to share my screen here. Hopefully I'm able to do that. I'm not able to do that. Hey Matt, are you able to give me the magic power to share the screen or no? He says yes. And now the host. All right, everybody should see we all see the slate now?
No, I see your desktop.
Oh, just your desktop.
Oh. Clicked the wrong one, sorry. Okay. Now do we see my screen?
There it is.
And there's somebody else here, we'll admit them in. Okay. All right, first up is president, and Joe is the incumbent. I'm sorry, Josh Silverstein is the incumbent, and he is up for his second of 2 terms. Do we have any other nominations for president? Joe is nodding his head, or Josh is nodding his head. Going once. Going twice. All right, so we have no more nominations. So, Josh, you are the president. The next position is Vice President 1. We actually have 2 candidates for this one. We have longtime RCA advocate Matt Tifford, along with Jack Stillwell, who is currently our director, one of our 3 directors.
Can somebody enlighten me when I got put in that vice president slot? I don't remember agreeing to that.
I nominated you, Jack. That was yeah. I think I tried to say if anybody has any objections, and we did. The slate was in the Echo. I was just testing to see if you were.
Who's paying attention?
Yeah, no, I actually read it. I just didn't get around to asking anybody about it in COVID times. I mean, I guess I'm happy to do it, but how about, wouldn't it make more sense? I don't know what Matt's interest is. If he's going to do it, I'll vote for him. But what about Andre and Joe? Are they both interested? One of them could be VP1 and one could be VP2.
Yeah, I saw my name on there. Aren't I finishing up year 3 of my term for director?
Yeah, so that's what the asterisk is there for. Basically, if you guys were to basically accept this, accept the nomination and not retract your names, we would have to find people to fill your other seats. That's what the asterisk refers to. So again, I think the idea was it was just to try to get at least a couple of candidates in there.
Gotcha.
And for consideration, but if you'd like to retract your name or not, I apologize. Before we get too far, we probably should have done some better outreach with Andre. He's I think as many are aware, he's he's in the new development at North Quarter, and I probably should have reached back out to him, when when we scheduled this as the election. I think he would have been happy to join. But I think I got away from me to reach out to him directly on that, because they don't get the echoes, at the townhomes. He would just have to be paying attention on Nextdoor, basically, or checking the Facebook page. But anyway, that's I could talk about him as a candidate if no one has read the little bios that are in the Echo.
Well, since we're being pretty informal here, I guess what I would say is I'd rather go ahead and serve my second term as director, and then, consider it for next time if you need a candidate. But is Matt interested?
Sure.
Okay. Then let's vote for Matt.
I gotta love that enthusiasm.
I think it's
Okay.
so funny. I didn't even notice the slate of candidates that you put in. I assume this was all you, Hooker. And that just shows that none of us actually looked at it. So
Wait,
that's really funny.
on Slack, but since this is like all board members on this meeting so far. On Slack, I put something out there like, I hope you guys are checking. I just put a bunch of people on there.
Nope, didn't check.
Hooker the Kingmaker.
That's right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, why don't we say, Ken, you're running this, but any other nominations for VP1?
Are there any other nominations for VP1? Hearing a lot of crickets. Okay, well, I guess we should vote through the chat then.
Chad, I think not. You can't kill us.
Matt took over control here.
It's the last time you give me edit access.
I thought you had good intentions when you asked for that.
Not so much.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, it's still back to, it is Matt Tippert. So we're voting. So in the chat, we're voting. Okay.
Yeah. And you can do it privately if you want as well. I'll see them as host. So. Got Matt with some exclamation points. Boy, they're really enthusiastic. So it looks like a landslide for Matt.
I have a prepared speech.
Let me retract my vote.
Right. Is there time to change the vote?
So for the record, it's a 9-0, Matt Tippert for VP1.
Damn. No luck.
All right.
So yeah, next, do you want me to?
Yeah. So for VP2, can you read the bio for?
Yeah, I'll read. It'll take a second, but I just need to figure out how to exit my full screen here, so I could get to my other things. There we go. Okay. Okay. So you guys can still hear me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll read his email. So, good afternoon. My name is Andre Miesniks. I'm not 100% sure I'm saying his last name right. It says, my wife and I recently moved into the North Quarter townhome community after many years living in nearby Chevy Chase and Potomac. I am semi-retired, and my wife Claudia tutors high school and college students in their preparation for college and grad school entrance exams. We plan on living here for the foreseeable future and are keenly interested in the surrounding community and its future. I just read the latest Echo newsletter, which includes a call for candidates to fill the 2 upcoming VP board position openings. I would like to learn a bit about the workings of the board. Okay. Well, anyway, he asks, some specific things. He provides his resume, and he says, specifically, I think my legal background, comprehensive real estate knowledge, managerial experience, and a passion for our environment and its natural resources could add value to the board's mission and success. In addition, I hope to serve on the North Quarters HOA board once the opportunity arises, and can already serve as a liaison for the board to this community's new residents. And so after I reach back out to him to confirm, and he says, "Great, Brian, I look forward to receiving the next echo and hopefully meeting you in the not too distant future. Thanks and enjoy your summer." And he, with the email before that, he says, "Thanks, Brian, I'm definitely interested in doing it." So I think what I failed to do is I think I said something maybe along the lines I'd, try to remember to send him the echo when the slate was done, and I failed in that. So I think it's still appropriate to consider him a valid candidate, and I only apologize in that. I think if I had done a better job following up with him, he would have, likely tried to attend this meeting. Anybody have any questions, or anybody want to see his resume or anything like that?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me. I'm all for fresh blood.
Yeah, I guess the only question I have is, Joe, you kind of said, I guess, where do you stand on, like Andre's not here right now. Do you want to stay on the ballot for VP2, or do you want to?
I'll stay on the ballot if we need to, so that we have it. But I think we should vote for Andre.
Okay. Well. Okay. Hi, Diane.
Hi. Sorry, I was a little late. I heard what Brian was saying, though, so I apologize for being a little late. So, technical issues.
Can we just do one vote for the remaining slate and make it Andre with Joe as a backup? And then just say for time's sake.
Sure.
I'm for Andre. Yeah, he sounds.
Okay.
He's willing. So.
Do we want to vote through the chat really quick? Make it official.
Okay, through the chat.
How do you want us to say? You want us to say vote for the slate?
Yeah, I think that's a separate option. Are you following
Okay, we're good.
a different thing? If you wanted, if the slate, if we're saying, if it would be easy to say the slate if it's just Andre, Mara, and Jack, and for those remaining positions. But if Joe's staying on, we need to, do a single vote between Andre and Joe, and then vote the slate for Mara and Jack.
So let's just, how about we take Joe off, and then if Andre says he won't do it, we can always, not put him on there later.
Ken, how do you feel? Do you want to do it that way, or just go ahead and do the runoff between Andre and Joe, and then?
I mean, he's on the ballot. I'd rather just do the runoff between Andre and Joe.
Okay.
Let's do that. That'll be quick.
And then we could just run through the other ones really quick because they're just incumbents. So.
There, I voted.
Mm-hmm.
One, two.
I thought I voted, but I'll vote again.
Okay, it's all Andre and the rest of them.
I don't want to vote twice. It's a touchy subject these days.
But apparently we can vote twice.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that today coming.
I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to laugh too hard at that one. Okay. So.
All right, so 11 votes for Andre. And then there were one.
Do I need to record the votes in the minutes? Or can I just say who won?
I think you could say it was unanimous if that's accurate. I don't know that we need an actual count.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's unanimous. Unless we have any other, do we have any other nominations for secretary?
Morrison, please.
Darn, nobody wants it.
Okay.
It's
And
a
then
tough job.
any other nominations for Director 3, which is Jack's current position? Okay. The slate has it.
Right.
All right, congratulations, Matt and Andre, and Mara, Jack, and Josh too.
Andre is going to be quite surprised.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to figure out how
Landslide for you.
I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to reach out to him, and or maybe I'll just leave that to Josh to reach out to him and say, hey, Brian dropped the ball, but he's no longer on the board.
We've kicked him off.
Right.
Yeah. So
Maybe you should delegate to the VP1, Brian.
that's true. Yeah. So, thanks, Ken. Thanks so much for running the election for us. I think Dean actually had the honor last year because, I don't know, I guess you were the first person that I looked at last year, Dean. So, thank you.
He likes to sit in the front row, which is dangerous.
That, you know what, that's exactly what it is. And he's a familiar face as well. So, I mean, I think, just to start off, we're going into another year of the Randolph Civic Association. I mean, I just wanted to thank our outgoing board members, Ken and Brian. I'm sure this isn't actually goodbye, but maybe hopefully you guys can recharge your RCA batteries this year or take care of some special projects that, being VPs didn't really allow for last year. But, we really appreciate everything that you've done for RCA. Brian, I actually don't know how long it's been, but probably 15 years. Or so?
I don't know. Not as long as Matt, but probably
Okay.
run up to Matt.
We will
And then
never see
Ken.
either one of them ever again.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Josh. Appreciate it.
I know it's not goodbye, but we really do appreciate everything that you guys do for RCA. So I just wanted to, thank you for that.
Thanks, guys.
We don't have too much business tonight, but I did want to kind of touch base on a few things. The board has been talking about, different approaches to membership outreach activities. Like we've been doing this membership card for, I can't recall if it's been 2 or 3 years now. And we have been talking about, I put discounts actually, but what I really meant were gift cards. And then something I've been sort of thinking about in my mind is, trying to come up with a social media strategy that could help us with outreach. I think the membership card was a good idea. I think one of the challenges with it seems like it's kind of cursed because we've had multiple businesses go out that signed on to the card, and it's a lot of work. And I was just wondering, I'm not opposed to it continuing. I think a few people on Slack weighed in on its future. I just don't know that I have the bandwidth to be the champion for it. And so I'm not opposed to continuing with the membership card. I think we would just need, a champion on the board who would be willing to take it on.
Yeah, so just a history on the card. We did it for 2 years. I think ultimately we signed up like a total of maybe across the 2 cards, maybe 7, 8, 9 businesses, something like that. And like 5 or 6 of those like went out of business for various reasons, COVID, not excluding, and so that's sort of the curse of it. It was a lot of work, a lot of emails back and forth, trying to be a salesperson to convince, those managers to sign up. And it's of no cost to them, but it's just, going through that correspondence was each time was pretty difficult. And at the end of the day, I don't think we got the boost that we wanted out of it. The 2019, we pretty much broke even. Like we got enough additional donations because of it. And cover the car, and I think I did the math on it at some point. I think we made $20 or something off of it when it was all said and done. And there wasn't really a bump in membership numbers from it, not really either. And then for the 2020 card, obviously that no real discounts coming from that one for the most part. Badlands closed. I think the only one on there right now is NYC Pizza. Yeah, there's not a whole lot going for it, and it just, I don't know if that, personally, I don't know if it's the right time to be asking struggling businesses, but I don't know. That's sort of where I stand. If I'd be a little bit more optimistic if we saw like some sort of bump in membership or bump in donations, but that kind of wasn't the case.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think that the last point in particular, the chance that any of these businesses are going to want to give out additional discounts, I would imagine is pretty small.
Yeah, I think it was a great idea. I congratulate you guys for thinking of new things and doing it, and timing, I think, killed us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if we're all in agreement then to not pursue it, I would like to remove it from the website. I mean, I'll leave the page on that's referenced on the bottom of the card, but right now there is a PayPal link that has it like as part of the little form to like include, it's $15 to donate for the card versus 10 if you don't have the card. I can roll that back so it's just $10 membership again, with no reference to the card. However, NYC Pizza or whoever else is left on the card, they still would be on the hook for the discount if people use it. That website would still be up, but yeah. Are we okay with me pulling it off the PayPal form?
Yep.
Yes.
And, if we're in a different situation in a year or two, we can revisit it. I mean, I think one of the things that would have been really nice and we never really got any response was getting a business like Rodman's or sort of like an anchor in the community that is a little bit less transient, I think. But, specifically to restaurants right now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was really proud of having Badlands on there, just because we actually use that discount a number of times. It's great for families with young kids, but unfortunately they had to shut down, and they're working on changing their business model and figuring out what to do. But so that was purely COVID related because they did quite well. But yeah, it would have been cool to have some other. I know we reached out to Rodman's and we reached out to these other places, but really it became just sort of localized to the shopping center for the most part.
But,
yeah, Ken, I definitely appreciate all your work championing that card, and I think it was good, and I think it still could be maybe once Loman's Plaza redevelops too or something like that.
Well, the cool thing is, I mean, we have the template, the card. We can spin those things up again if we wanted to relaunch it. And I'll keep the code that I created for the website to include that in the form.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to the next item, and this was something Colby's not really here to explain it, so I'll try my best to explain Colby's point. And I'm sorry that it says discounts, but it was really gift cards. And I think the concept that he was talking about was effectively buying a few gift cards from local businesses, hopefully predominantly in the Randolph Hill Shopping Center, but I don't know that it was really restricted to just our shopping center, as a way of enticing people to join up as members. And I guess he had two different approaches. One of them was to try to get a business to donate like a $25 gift card in return for free advertising or quote free advertising in the Echo. And then the second option was for RCA to put some money on the table, say like $150 to try to fund the gift cards ourselves. And so I had asked folks for feedback. I hadn't personally weighed in yet, but I wanted to, before I say anything sort of about my opinion, I wanted to hear other people's thoughts.
These gift cards would be like, would be given out to random members. That's the idea? Okay. I missed the step after the buying or getting donations. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we really talked a lot about it. Like what, like, is it for new members only and then we do a lottery, or is it a lottery of all members? Like, I don't
Lottery was the word I was looking for.
What's that?
Lottery is the word I was looking for. I was like, bingy. Yeah. I mean,
I think particularly if we were to do an exchange for advertising, I think that would really work well. I don't know if we ought to go and buy the gift cards, but if we were to tell, Vignola, if we said, hey, we'll give you a half-page ad in the upcoming issue for if you can donate a, I don't know, $25 gift card or something like that, that'd be a pretty good deal for them.
But
what's the cost of advertising though for like a half page, quarter page?
I mean,
it's like $80, right? I mean, or what is it?
It's more expensive than to buy like a $25, $50 gift card.
Well, no, it doesn't cost us $80.
Yeah, but we're kind of knocking ourselves out of revenue. It sounds like
yes,
and to not a great advantage because we're giving a discount card to one member.
For context, though, I think to do the discount cards, it costed $200 pretty much to get them all printed out and whatnot. So I think he wanted to work within that budget.
Can I suggest that we table it and ask him to come back with more of a detailed plan and vote on it at a future meeting?
We could do that, except for he's not going to be able to attend any meetings this fall.
He has a class this fall. So.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we could do is, we don't have to really try to, hit a home run on this, for example. Like, we could kind of, if we wanted to test the waters a little bit to see if people bit, we could, for example, just buy one gift card and say, people who join during this month will be entered into the lottery. And then it's like, it's a $25 gamble versus, $150, $200. Like, that was one thing I was trying to think about. Because, to some degree, I was a little bit worried that we were going to be cannibalizing our own potential advertisers by, giving them a free ad with, not too much benefit. But, for a place like Vignola, I don't know that they really need to advertise in the Echo anyway. So, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I could flip a coin on it. I don't know that I'm all in, but I think it could be worth trying just, on a smaller scale.
That sounds like a good idea.
I like that idea.
And I'll tell you, right now we're a little down on advertising. So we should have room to throw an ad in.
I mean, one idea might be to raffle off the gift card whoever shows up at the meeting.
Okay.
I like that.
Actually,
to the meeting.
Christiana's idea, I was thinking more along the lines of raffling it at an event, but I don't know when our next event is going to be.
I was going to say, we'd have to have an event first.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So. But people can attend a Zoom meeting, and if they show up and then raffle it off there, we could mail it to them. That way there's community involvement.
Right.
So that's one way.
I guess the way I feel about it, I question the bang for the buck. You know what I mean? Like, we're trying to get more membership. I mean, giving a card out to a couple people, I don't know if that's going to cut it.
Yeah, but it could drum up some more numbers.
Yeah,
It's an idea. It's an idea.
it's an idea.
I think it's I don't know, it's kind of like we could try to see what happens, and we could compare the numbers to the last 3 membership campaigns to see what they look like. But yeah, to say to buy like 6 or 8 gift cards right now, I don't know that I'm quite there either.
Okay.
Well, we have the Echo we have 7 issues of the Echo for the year, right?
Mhm.
So basically, I was just wondering, okay, when the Echo comes out, that's probably when we can say, hey, we're going to be raffling off. But then, you announce, oh, this person was a winner last month, and, a gift card, please, consider joining the RCA, in a sense. So, if you put their name in print, some people like that. Also, people who contribute, putting their name in the print, to get people who contributed, and people who contribute more than just the membership fee and make a donation, you can also kind of highlight that. Some people like to see that, in print. So it's something about seeing their name in print. I don't know if there's, so 7 gift cards, for each, for the Echo. I mean, we can discuss it more, but it's not a bad idea, but is it going to increase membership? But that would be a little less than $200.
Yeah.
Well, if we really want to increase membership, we should find a way to give out a get out of jail free card for county inspectors.
Oh, okay, there you go. So
I don't think we can afford that.
But I want to actually loop back to another point that Matt made that I actually thought was kind of intriguing. It was more getting potentially new advertisers in by saying, hey, we're offering this thing for new advertisers. We'll give you free space for a card. And that way we're potentially getting more revenue from advertisers in the long run if it's a way of introducing them.
Wait a minute. To add on to that, what if instead of a card, what if it was a free space if there's a coupon in the ad?
Yeah.
that's an idea.
Because then everybody can use it. I don't know if they'll bite, but
yeah,
I think that just becomes less about membership.
Yeah, it becomes less about membership. That was going to be my point. But
It's more about advertising.
But part of membership is growing our enough money to pay for the Echo. I mean, that's really what we're trying to do here, right? We want to increase community involvement, but we also want to be able to still continue to bring the Echo to people. We might be going off on a side path here, but I don't know. That was just something that I thought was intriguing, is using it also as a lever to bring in new advertisers.
Okay, so I don't think that we have to make any decisions right now, but I think we have some good ideas, and we can let them percolate a little bit. The last point before we move on is something that I'm actually a little bit more excited about, and also at the same time very ignorant about as well, which is whether we can use more of a, develop a social media strategy as a way to get more members. So, right now we don't have a ton of followers on Facebook, not just thinking about like how many people are on Nextdoor versus how many people like our page on Facebook. But I don't know if you guys know this, but Sarah actually boosted our s'mores event, and we had a pretty good turnout to it. And I wonder, I don't know what the right dollar value is, like if it's $50 or something like that, but I just wonder if we'd want to sort of set up a Facebook like quote ad or whatever that's all about joining RCA, and boost that, in terms of like a radius around our community, because that's something that you can do on Facebook. Like within 2 miles of your address, you can, it'll show up on people's Facebook feeds, and then they would see join the RCA and they just click it. So I think, Sarah, I think has some experience with social media. Ken, I think you do maybe a little bit as well. And I apologize if someone else does this too, but I think it's worth looking into to see, if this year, if it's worth investing like $50 or even $100 and trying to have some tailored ads on Facebook. So I'll kind of pause there for people's reactions.
I think that's good bang for your buck, and it's targeted. Like I think that, and it's won't be hard to do.
Yeah, I know they're always dinging me, every time I'm as administrator, going in there. It's like, boost this thing up, and I guess that's what I didn't know. I'm very interested. I didn't know that Sarah had done that for the s'mores event. I guess my biggest thing was like the cost. It's like, oh, do I boost this, or I don't know, is it worth the money? But if other people have had success with it, I'm supportive of it, because I think it is getting more, of our own constituent eyeballs in front of it, potentially.
It's certainly worth trying, for the membership drive this year and see what happens. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't think it's that expensive. I mean, I don't know the prices, but I think just doing a couple boosts for an event, I mean, that wasn't too costly to do. And I just like it because, this is working smarter, not harder. I mean, this is way easier than boots on the ground.
Well, yeah. And we can't go door to door anyway, and that's too much work in many cases. So.
Well, I think the follow-up step is so important, because you really need to collect again people's email addresses and have a functioning email list. I think that's what's missing the most. So if we do a boost, fine, but what's the next step? So if we keep people more engaged with our own dedicated email list where something gets sent out, I think that's what had us more vibrant a couple of years back.
Yeah, I think, it's really hard. I think there's a lot that you can do with some social media if you're, quote, an expert in it. And I'm, kind of averse to social media in general.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think Sarah, she chipped in, I think, $5 of her own money for the s'mores event. And we ended up reaching like a few hundred people. And of course, not all those people came, but I would say that we had a pretty good turnout for that event. And so for just $5, I think it was pretty strong. I think, we were looking, Ken, I think you and I were talking about it back during the Better Black event. And I think to target, 10,000 people or something, it was like $20. And so, it's actually not too bad. But I think to your point, Christiana, we have to, once we bait people in and, let them know about the association and its value, we have to find a way to retain them and keep them engaged. And, with listservs like Nextdoor, that can be a little bit challenging. We actually have some content in the upcoming Echo to talk about, how to sort of like tailor your Nextdoor posts a little bit so that we could have more community-based discussions rather than, talking about all the crazy traffic in Aspen Hill or the dog poop in Palisades and, things like that.
Yeah, I want to follow up with Christiana. I know that, I think we maybe had higher hopes for Nextdoor, when it first came out and when we dropped the Yahoo group. What's your opinion on one thing that we've been experimenting with is also this, it's not Constant Contact, but it's, what's that email?
Mailchimp.
Yeah, Mailchimp, which is just more of a newsletter that goes out. It's not a two-way thing, but it would be more directly into your email box, and we'd still leave Nextdoor for that kind of, chatter back and forth on different topics. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on more of a regular newsletter that's emailed directly to people in their email?
I mean, I've been using Mailchimp for my own music business. So blew up March 14th, from COVID. I've been using Mailchimp successfully for years. And I just made it a discipline. Every month I send out one email letter to people and I get responses back or so, but the point is to keep engaged. Now for us as a neighborhood group, I have about as much social media savvy as Josh says he has. The only thing that I think is important is to keep a spreadsheet. Like I have an Excel spreadsheet for our caroling, which I always refresh year after year. So I don't lose people. Or if I know someone moved out of town, I put them on the bottom of the list. I no longer send them emails. But one can use a simple Excel spreadsheet for whatever format you will decide to use. Now, Mailchimp or Constant Contact is good, but it's only one way. That's something if we want to use it. But just that we keep growing a list of contacts is helpful. So I don't know, for example, I hate Nextdoor. I don't want to read about other people who they saw someone walking around the back door or whatever. So I see the digest, and usually then I find out about things 3 days after. But if there's something just more direct, or something also just like the Yahoo group used to be, where people can write back, I think that was useful and produced results. So that's my 2 cents. One thing that I can do and volunteer to do is keeping a good spreadsheet that anybody can use in whatever format they want to import. But that kind of labor, I do have those hours to help.
I think the big problem we have is just getting the contacts to begin with. Like we have a very large chunk of the neighborhood is signed up to Nextdoor, which is great, but we don't have email addresses for those people. We don't have an email address unless they decide to give it to us. And what's happened, we've had an enormous turnover over the last 6 to 8 years in the neighborhood, and a lot of our email list went completely defunct in that process. So we're trying to build it back up again, but we really don't have a lot of that.
If there's so much of the neighborhood that's on Nextdoor, can we make better use of Nextdoor for our outreach and for our conversations about the membership drive and those kinds of things?
I think that's one of the challenges we have in doing. We are putting stuff on Nextdoor, like this meeting and like events and so forth. But I think oftentimes they get kind of buried unless you know how to filter your Nextdoor results to your immediate neighborhood. I don't know, Josh, I don't know if you want to add on that, but I think that was part of what you were asking earlier.
Yeah. I think part of it is limitations of Nextdoor. And then there's another piece of it, which is also educational about Nextdoor. Like, Christiana, I saw your comment to Sarah, and that's why I started talking about Nextdoor a little bit, because I wanted to be responsive. And, I did some digging in some of Nextdoor's help text, and it's funny, they actually don't really have a specific FAQ about how do I just post to my neighborhood versus posting to the 39 surrounding ones. And that's why we get all of these, sort of spam messages from people in surrounding neighborhoods. It seems like most of them come from Aspen Hill for whatever reason, I don't know. But
Aspen Hill's huge.
Yeah,
maybe that's what it is. I don't have anything against that community. It just seems like there are a lot of people who are speeding and leaving their dog poop there for whatever reason. But yeah, I think it's really just about trying to, one, understand Nextdoor's limitations and try to operate within them, because it does seem to be kind of the prevailing technology by which we can have electronic communication. Because, even if we wanted to come back to the Yahoo group, it's defunct now. It doesn't even exist. And I thought it was like kind of cool and interesting when I first moved to the neighborhood and it was still going on, because I hadn't had a listserv like that in a few years until I moved here, and then I noticed it again, but it was something I remember from the 90s. But we do have some content in the Echo that hopefully will allow for people to tailor their messages more for RCA land. And maybe it's just more about us trying to start conversations as well. I mean, just life has been really busy and hectic lately, but I know that Sarah, for example, Sarah Anderson, is always someone who's asking questions on Nextdoor. And so, I just think there are opportunities to connect electronically, and hopefully we can do it a little bit better this year.
When I get notifications, I get an email notification within the neighborhood from Nextdoor, and then I also get an email with the newsletter. So is the email more targeted?
I think it depends on your preferences. So I don't know. I think the default preference is that you might get stuff from surrounding neighborhoods, and you also may get like a daily digest or something like that.
I'll get an individual email from somebody like, say, Sarah Anderson, that comes up just as an email. And then I'll get Nextdoor Randolph Hills newsletter notification. Then I'll get Nextdoor neighborhood. So I'm getting like 3 different things, but it seems to me that the email is more targeted.
There's definitely Nextdoor. I mean, if you look in the settings, there's definitely a whole bunch of granular like notification options and stuff that you can choose and opt out of if you want to.
So it might be great if somebody has the time to go in. I probably did it when I set it up and never looked at it again, but if somebody has the time to go in and look at it.
Yeah, I mean, you might be on all the defaults that they just start you out with. You might not have even ever touched it.
Yeah.
They're also beta testing. When I was looking into this a little bit, they're also beta testing the way that posts and replies change sort of their position in the feed. And so apparently up until recently, the original poster was the only person who could actually bring their post back up to the top, which is kind of a ridiculous concept. And so, if I put a post out there, Bob, if you had replied to it, it wouldn't actually get to the top of the feed. It would be me who would have to post again, and then it would return. And now the way that I understand it is that any reply will bring it up to the top of the feed. And so it really is, if a popular post comes up, it should stay high on the feed. And you can still filter the feed by Randolph Hills, and not just the surrounding neighborhoods, but yeah.
Yeah, my point one more time is just whatever tool we use, Nextdoor or whatever, that's fine. But that we should reclaim ownership of our contact data, which we might have to just rebuild from scratch. So someone who is more savvy with that would be great to hear from them how to do it. Once we know how to do it well, again, I can say I'm happy to do some of that work. That's fine.
Yeah, so we have, I can't recall how many email addresses we have, but I would say it's north of 400. And that's what we've been using for our Mailchimp reach outs. And I think we've committed to doing about 3 or 4 per year, just so we don't get people angry. And so we really target them, but we get pretty good click statistics on them, especially when it's packed full of information. So like if we're just advertising a meeting in one of those emails, we might get like a 30 or 40% open rate. But if we're talking about murals and events and other things like that, we'll get, almost 2/3 of people will actually open the email within a few days, and that's pretty good. And we'll even get, a decent amount of clicks on our websites and things like that. So it is really nice that those systems, I actually don't know what they're called, but they have click statistics on all of those links. So, and I'm sure you're aware of that, Christiana. And I don't know, Ken, maybe this is your off-year project, but I think, Ken and Chad had this vision for using a fancier contact management system. I actually don't know the real name of it, but it's what HOAs use. And so I think maybe Ken, I don't know if that's sort of on your list for this year to research more into, or if you want to say anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, they got some fancy systems, which range in price and stuff, and I've demoed a couple of them. But I mean, generally speaking, though, I mean, like these updating spreadsheets and stuff like this, and keeping track of, keeping track of the email addresses, and really the key is going to be self-provisioning and enabling people to register and update their contacts and things like that, and let them do the work for us. So that's sort of the direction I would love to see things go, and then have better transparency into like who's paying, how many. Who's paying what? How many members do we have? What things do they do? And some of these systems, like, give you that transparency. However, it costs money. It's effort to stand it up. It costs, probably a couple $100s a year or whatever, which, which is probably worth it, given all the time you could spend to do this stuff correctly in a manual way. And I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. I appreciate what Christiana said about maintaining the spreadsheet, and that's what we currently do now. But I think the more we can get, the people in the neighborhood to do the work for us, I think that's when it can really, potentially take off. But again, it's money, it's effort, it's setting it up, it's all those things. So, yeah, maybe this year. Since I'm off the board, I make no promises on that, but we've looked into it a little bit, and maybe I could do some presentation on it at some point. It's been like a year since I looked at it, though.
So do these services, would you have the option of letting people, like, how you can log in with Google or with Apple or Facebook?
That depends, like a single sign-on kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's going to depend on the service. I don't remember what authentication options you had for this particular one that I was looking at. But that would make it easier if you could just like log in with Facebook or log in with Facebook when you're in, and we potentially could get, data from the Facebook feed or your Google account, so yeah, this is something I'd have to research. So I don't have too much more to say about it, but these systems exist, and I think probably the more super organized, not that we're not organized, but the bigger bigger successful HOAs probably use a system like this, just because it just becomes too much work at some point. We have, what is it, 1,340 houses, you know what I mean? And to have a pulse on all that, it's not easy. I think we just got to leverage technology, as much as we can to help solve our problems. I went on a tangent there.
No, I think that was.
But it's something I've been thinking. I've thought about for a while. It's just the work to stand it up and do the thing. That's the issue.
Okay. Well, we're almost at 9 o'clock, so I want to propose tabling this for now. I'm actually excited for the next agenda item, and it's Community Day, and we're living in this bizarre Groundhog Day that involves quite a bit of solitude, and I think it goes without saying that we can't have Community Day as we have in past Octobers, but something that I've been mulling over in my mind is whether we could effectively have this year maybe what I would call a community service day, and sort of try to schedule an RCF cleanup. And I don't think we have any of the members of the board there, but I do think that having a community cleanup might be an excellent socially distanced event, and something that could be really good for the community because we haven't done it in a few months. And maybe if we can sort of plan it correctly, we could even have, donuts or something at the green, or, some other place where we can sort of adequately space out. But I wanted to get people's thoughts, see how comfortable people would be even, meeting for something like donuts, and whether they think a cleanup's a good idea.
Yeah, as a normal community day organizer and struggling this year, I think that's definitely one thing that I think is achievable to accomplish this year. And the other thing I raised on Slack, and I can't recall if anyone did that, was the other socially distant type event where basically people can spread out and they don't interact is a movie, because they're just all sitting 6 feet apart and looking at a screen. Did we, is that something that we want to pursue again? I know that we had talked, that when we potentially we could borrow the counties again, their blow up screen. I know we were trying to grapple with issues of copyright, like what movies could we actually show? And we were struggling with that. And then there was this vendor that reached out to us as, that costs money, that they could maybe set something up for us. I just wanted to throw that out there if there was any appetite in trying to maybe look into how to get the county blow up screen at a minimum, or perhaps reaching out to the vendor. Although I know we don't have a lot of money to do these types of things. But anyway, I wanted to get some feedback on that.
Did this occur at the Civic Green? Is that what you're picturing?
Yeah.
I looked a little bit into the price of just rights to display a movie to whatever 20 or 50 people, because I think a lot of places do it, and I think I think the cost probably started around $300, and it could go up to maybe, I think maybe up to like $750, depending on the movie. There are some movies actually that are in the public domain. I just don't know how family friendly they are.
Generally 50-year thing for public domain.
Yeah.
I mean, I could look into that further, but what do folks think? Think we're at a point where people would actually show up to something like that? I'm just want to gauge what thoughts are about. I mean, would you show up to the Civic Green to watch an outdoor movie, or most likely?
I would.
Yeah. Or 1, 2.
I would.
I would.
Sure.
I think a lot of people would show up. The question is, if a lot of people show up, would they all leave?
Oh, that's a good point. If it's too crowded, yeah, people might.
I was gonna say, I think you can get more space on the big field. Like, so I'm on Ashley's. I'm sorry, I'm pointing out the window, like you know where I am. But the big field in the park is a lot more space between Ashley Drive and the creek, where they play soccer in a year that's not COVID.
Yeah, no, that's another good space too. Yeah.
You'd have to get generators for that, though, right?
There. But yeah, I'd have to pull the permit probably from the county to do it there, whereas on the private property I don't have to do that. But no, thanks. And yeah.
What about a fire pit on the green area?
I think that could work, except for the fires themselves are pretty small, and so, if you wanted to get close to the fire, only, one family or maybe 2 families at a time could be there, just because of the radius of the pits.
Some of the Masonic lodges that I belong to, Silver Spring Masonic Lodge, and some of the lodges are using 2 and 3 of the little fire pits. Get some more space out there. People are bringing their little portable radio speakers, their Bluetooth speakers, and people just sit around and in the evening, and you could do that after your cleanup day.
All right. Oh, it is getting late, but I think I've had enough feedback that I think it's worth, looking into more, at least for the movie. I think one nice thing I think in my mind is a movie. It's like you could just paint on the ground, like here's your spot, and you go through and everybody gets a spot, and and you kind of are in community watching a movie. But all right, I'll try to do some more homework on that. And again, I know that we don't have a lot of money, so I'm going to try to do something that's free to inexpensive, low cost. But thank you everyone for that feedback. And Josh, I think we'll coordinate, but I think the community organizing a stream cleanup or community cleanup day for that same day, I think is a great idea.
Okay, great.
I've organized several stream
sorry.
cleanups. I'm happy to work on that.
Thank you. And we know that you've done a lot of cleanup in general, so we really appreciate it. I know you help organize I don't know what to call it, but it's like the greater Rock Creek cleanup, right?
Yeah, it's the Rock Creek Conservancy. It's easy to put together a creek cleanup. If somebody wants a creek cleanup on the day of the movie, it won't be hard.
Okay. Okay. So on to old business. So I want to say it was either in our May or June. I think it was in our June meeting. We had the opportunity for folks in the community to provide feedback on the Beach Drive road closure. We received a hotline call this month, and I just wanted to check in with people again, just to kind of see what their thoughts are, whether they like the Beach Drive road closures as is, if they'd recommend changes, or just if they don't like it at all. I think we just wanted to give people an opportunity again to express their opinions.
I am very much opposed to it being closed. I'm handicapped, and I can't go bike riding anymore like I used to, and I can't do the walking through there. My family is fourth generation Washingtonian. Rock Creek has been always accessible for everybody. And it used to be, before the days of air conditioning, folks would go for an evening drive in Rock Creek and get what they called 440 air conditioning, 40 miles an hour with 4 windows down. And if you go through the park in the evening hours, you notice how much noticeably cooler it is than the surrounding community. It's almost 10 degrees cooler on some days. But again, because of my handicap issue, I am very much opposed to it being closed at all during any hour of the day. I think really what I would love to see is we need to figure a way of increasing the shoulder widths so that we can support more bicycle traffic out there on the shoulder, on designated areas for it, even if it was a designated lane like they do in DC. It's a designated bike lane. And then maybe some additional parking at the end of Beach Drive there in Schuylkill by the bridge, because it tears up the grass when folks just park anywhere they want. And the Park Service doesn't get too thrilled with it either. But maybe if we could ask them to increase the gravel area that is designated parking for the folks that park there for their bikes.
So in DC, Beach Drive is actually closed on weekends for the same reason that it's currently, and it's been closed for years. I actually really enjoy having Beach Drive closed on the weekends. I have, since it's been closed, I have taken several of my neighbors on their first ride in years through Beach Drive. And when I ride on Beach Drive and I look around, what I actually see what looks like it looks to me like a thriving community. I mean, it would be like my definition of a thriving community, where there are little kids with training wheels, and there are people walking their dogs, and there are people pushing their babies. And I agree that everyone needs to have access to to Beach Drive. And I've been in touch with the county even this week about the Beach Drive closure, because they recently announced that they're going to extend the closure until further notice. And when I reached out to them about it, they said that as soon as Montgomery County enters phase 4, and I don't know when that's going to be, they're actually going to open Beach Drive on Fridays. It's currently closed on Fridays from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. And so I think that that will be a time that people who don't ride bikes or don't walk can enjoy Beach Drive, and then consistent with what's currently happening, what's been happening for years in DC, is that it can be closed on the weekends.
And that's just not fair for folks that are handicapped. I have been, like I said, living here in my entire life, and so the rest of my family. And there are a lot of people, and not just adults, there are children. As a Mason, we deal with the Shriners and the school, the buses that go up to Philadelphia to the Shriner hospitals. Sometimes they come back through the park. Those kids can't use that anymore. It's precluded from them. It is cutting off access to a whole segment of society, and it's almost as if the young have said to the old, "Go away," because you don't have access. I had a friend that when I was a police officer in DC, and my days off were Tuesdays and Wednesdays when I was a young officer, and Mrs. Campbell was 98 years old, and she used to live for me to pick her up at her condo on Connecticut Avenue and drive her through Rock Creek and go up to her bank and then go all the way down to the Wisconsin Avenue, not the Wisconsin Avenue, the Main Avenue wharf down there to get her crab meat for the week, and then drive back through the park. And when they closed it off on her on Sundays, she just lost it. And she lost all interest and wound up going to a nursing home because she could no longer get her access that she wanted on the time that she wanted it. And to me, again, I just emphatically say it's just not fair.
I want to be cognizant of time. Was there anyone else who wanted to express opinion about this? Okay. All right. So our next item, and Nell's unable to join us today. So I don't know, Matt or Brian, if you're able to share anything, or sort of, are there any, let me actually take a step back. So the RCA and RCF have both been working with Alan Cronstadt, from the Randolph Hill Shopping Center to try to advance a mural project like we have at the Pickford property on Bolingbrook Parkway. And we have an agreement in principle with Alan to proceed with a mural as long as we are collaborating with the Jewish Day School. And so we've been working on this project, I think, for about 6 or 8 months, trying to advance it. And I wasn't sure if there was anything right now that we needed to talk about or to otherwise advance the issue. Right now, we are really like in the beginning stages. We're even thinking about ways to incorporate community feedback into the actual design process as well. So I'm gonna pause right there.
Hey, Josh, I'm on the committee for that, and it's a little partly because Alan really wants the Charles E. Smith School involved, and obviously they're just coming or getting back involved in school. Coming back is not the right word or phrase, but he also in his most recent letter said to Nell, Nell's been doing most of the correspondence with them, that he wants to make it more of a community project, which is not, we keep it a little more contained because it would be more manageable. The art department at the school is definitely interested in being involved, but I think it's really a situation where it needs to be massaged a little, understand more exactly what Alan wants, and communicate to Alan the limitations of the community involvement because we're afraid to broadcast it out to degree, it'll become unmanageable. Brian, any?
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I mean, Allison's standing right here too, so she could
Okay.
chime in. Allison's on the RCF as well. I mean, I think the challenge is exactly as you stated, like trying to work with the school without it becoming like a school project and then leaving our community kind of out of it. I know that's one thing that Allison has raised as kind of a challenge. How do you segment the mural into like, okay, this is Charles E. Smith's part and this is our part, because Charles E. Smith would probably want to do it during the week or during class or something like that, and the rest of the community is probably only going to be able to do it like on after school or on weekends. So it's like anyway, so it's a challenge kind of working across that different organizational aspect. But I don't know, Allison, you want to add any more?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's such a big project that we're Nell's doing a good job of keeping the communication lines open and involving the other members of the mural committee that consists primarily of, I guess, me, Jack, Nell, and Diane. Mm-hmm. And so the four of us were meeting on a pretty regular basis, talking things through. And like Brian said, we're support of honoring Alan's suggestion of involving Charles E. Smith. We think it's a great idea, and involving the youth, but also keeping our youth as part of the picture of being involved. Because I think they have as much or probably more of a tie to the Randolph Hills community than the children at Charles E. Smith. So trying to figure out how all those pieces fit together, and have the artist I think we'll be going with is the same one that did the fish mural. And I know she has some ideas, and we're kind of thinking of, involving the community in terms of like, voting on things, putting a few designs in front of people and trying to maybe gather support in that way. So there's still a lot of ideas floating around, but things are slowly getting narrowed down. I don't know. In terms of a timeline, we had hopes that it would be done. We would be painting this fall, but I'm not sure that is going to happen.
And just to be clear, Alan's the money guy, so we have to defer to him to a large extent.
Yeah.
Not to mention the property owner.
Right.
That helps.
Is there someone who's done a sort of chart of, this is going to be old thought maybe, but task analysis, so that the parts that we could have a lot of other people involved could be identified, and the parts where it has to be narrowed down to, choosing the artist, or as you said, sounds like you already have done that. But if you get a task analysis, maybe we can find out, and then talk to Kronstadt about where does he want his role, and where does he think about the school's role.
Yeah, I think part of the problem we run into is every time we talk to him, he skews a little bit differently. And so we're, I think, trying to diplomatically understand what he wants and meet his needs, but also keep the project manageable, because any kind of creative design project like this can be enough the more people you get involved.
But we do see like creating some sort of a task list and then reaching out to the greater Randolph Hills community and asking for help in specific areas, but trying to make it as easy as possible for people to help. Because sometimes when, you just reach out and say, can you help with this, with a very general idea, people don't step up. But if you say, can you be here between, 10 and 11 in the morning to watch kids paint, you get a little bit more participation.
And look at it and so on should have some way to have some say. It influences all of us, and that's pretty important component of a task analysis, it would seem to me. And how to decide how to do that is a little tough maybe, but
so kind of figuring out what we want on the mural representing our community. I mean, it's a big wall, kind of showing all the people that pass through our neighborhood. I mean, it's a lot of people that drive through our neighborhood, who we are and, what we stand for. And, it shows our sense of community. So we want to make sure it is representative of all the voices involved, or that live in RCA land and the people that are living here. So, and then the cost of it, it's a lot cheaper to just do words as opposed to images. So that's a big thing to consider. Maybe we do some words and then, some in images, and then breaking it into three parts that grow together, starting in the middle and then moving from one side and then to the other side. I think Alan has expressed kind of a payment plan kind of schedule where he's paying for a third at a time, a third the following year, and then a third the year after that. So
what I kind of wish is that we could steer Alan towards getting a design expert involved at this stage, because while it is very important to have the community and the school and everything involved, that part is one where it's really hard for us non-muralists to really we lack the expertise to really know what kind of things work and what kind of things don't work.
Well, that was kind of my point. I said, if we can get together a design that gets people excited, that'll build a lot of momentum. And I do think Nicole, the artist, would be a person that could do that. But then the last communication from Alan, he said, well, let's leave the artist out of it for now while we work out some of the details. So it's kind of 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
Right.
Yeah, but I think it would, the design process would kind of evolve, or the artist would be a big part of it. And I think for me, and I guess we haven't fully discussed this at one of our meetings, but it would be seeking kind of ideas or images or just even words from the community. What does this community mean to you? And then, making one of those word clouds and then having the artist giving the word cloud to the artist. This is what we collected, and taking into account that maybe, the people that we might not be reaching, that might not tune in to RCA news or surveys or things that are sent out, looking at our demographic and who we are as a community.
Yeah, so Josh, as much of a rough update. I saw John see your comment too about Einstein, and I know Mayor's, we've talked about Veers Mill, and but one of the hard things about being in the Down County Consortium is what, Einstein? What about Wheaton? What about
Loiterman?
Einstein is the theater arts magnet school for the downtown, this consortium, this area.
Right, and Loiterman is the arts. Yeah, Loiterman is the arts magnet for the middle schools.
Right. My kids went through from Loiterman on into Einstein in the theater arts program.
Anyway, but those are definitely things I think I agree that you know, if you know, that's part of that community tap in is, do we reach out to those schools the same way that we're reaching out to Charles E. Smith, or do we try to do it more inclusively to the community, the actual residents? But I think we're open to all that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, I think that, Charles E. Smith would have some sense of ownership that they're obviously across the street and part of the community was part of Alan's thoughts.
And he's on their board.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the.
And his daughter was an art major there.
Yeah. I mean, I think JDS is really, that's just something that's kind of a condition that Alan's put in place, as I understand it. And so, I mean, just personally, I think having Loiterman, Einstein students involved in this project would be great. I just think that, JDS is a stakeholder that has to be involved, just from what I've heard so far. So thank you so much, Allison. I actually didn't know that was you. I wasn't sure which member of the household was in the corner there. I couldn't see your head before, but I really appreciate the update that you provided on the mural.
Oh yeah, no problem. And the other update I want to give you from RCF is that we installed some solar lights on the sign at by Matt's house off of Garrett Park Road. They only work if it's a sunny day. They collect sunlight and then at night go on for a few hours. So they have been on. I have pictures to prove it. But if you're driving down the road, that was an RCF purchase. We started with one sign to see how it went. So.
Excellent. Okay. So we're just gonna move on. It's 9:25. So anyone who's gonna be providing an update, I'll just ask them to keep it to a minute or two. But the first thing that I'd like to go through is I don't believe that we've had a meeting since our June minutes were published in the Echo. So it's hard to see here, but I am holding up the June Echo and I am motioning that we approve the June minutes as published in our summer Echo.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And so we don't have a treasurer here tonight present, but I could just provide a brief update from what I remember, and that the RCA finished in the black last year slightly, and so that's a positive note. I think we're a few $100 in the black, so that's always good, but that's sort of the only substantive update I can provide from our financial perspective. And so we'll move on quickly onto committee chair reports. Public safety, Diane?
Yeah, well, the big thing was there was no meeting at the police station this summer. I tried to see if there was going to be like a Zoom meeting, but nothing happened with that. But the big news, Dana Stroman, or Officer Dana Stroman, did publish something on Nextdoor regarding catalytic converters. That seems to be something that people should be aware of. We did have a few incidences this summer. Unfortunately, crime does go up in the summertime. In fact, my husband and I decided to purchase a Nest. So we now have that because our neighbor across the street actually had someone try to do something, and luckily nothing happened, but there was an intruder. So in their backyard area. So I guess they were trying to steal the catalytic converter off their Bensons. But anyway, so there have been a few incidences. Overall, they say crime is down, but there has been a few car break-ins, but admittedly, some of the people already left their doors open. So that's the other issue too we have. And that's the most common crime in Montgomery County is car break-ins. So.
Okay, thank you. Matt, environment?
Let's see. The only thing I have, there's a house at 11316 Schuylkill, which is it's basically an abandoned house right now. It was a foreclosure, and then it was sold, but it looks like a company bought it up or something. So it's just sitting there rotting away. There've been some. I think there was a little bit of a thread on Nextdoor about it because there's a swimming pool in the backyard that's derelict and it's become a mosquito farm. And it's really, if you drive by that house, it's really terrible. And I'm helping one of the neighbors right now get the county involved. They had called about it, and the inspector got the address wrong, and they were going to the wrong house. So nothing happened all summer. But it is, if anybody else wants to phone it in at 311, the more they hear complaints, the better. I've sent it directly to Ken Hartman and Nancy Navarro's office.
Mm-hmm.
But it's 11316 Schuylkill Road. Definitely one we need to get under control.
Yeah, you can see some pictures of that pool, and it's like haphazard fence on Redfin.
Yeah.
Yeah, the house has looked pretty bad for many months now, I think, at this point. The lawn, I think, is a foot high at this point.
I think the back door is actually open.
Yes, I was going to say that. The back door is open.
It's been open for who knows how long.
Yep. Somebody posted the picture of the swimming pool in the back, and you could see the back door is just swinging open.
Yeah. So
that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. With that, I mean, we're at 9:30. Is there any other pressing matter that someone wants to raise that wasn't on the agenda?
Oh, come by. We've now been making music every night for 5 months solid to drive the virus away. We still do our doorstep concerts.
It's fantastic.
7:15.
As it gets darker earlier, I think I'll be able to.
Yeah.
But
It'll get earlier. Show up.
yeah, the kids go to bed around the sundown, so it's been hard. But I've seen your Facebook posts, and I hope to make it soon when it's darker earlier. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and motion to adjourn this meeting. Do I have any opposed? All right. We're going to adjourn the meeting. It's 9:31. Thank you very much to everyone who attended.
Okay. Bye, everybody.